And I rock with Stephen A. obviously, but just like that Kawhi wants to play. Like I will keep beating that over the head until I'm like, out of breath. He wants to play. Like he keeps like making it something that Kawhi doesn't want to play. I think we rode a Kawhi a lot this year. I just think at some point your body breaks you down.
That was Paul George addressing Stephen A. Smith recently. They did a broadcast together on NBA Countdown. Paul George joined the set briefly. Stephen A. was making jokes, lighthearted jokes. You could tell he was trying to be funny, basically saying that no superstar knows what it's like to play without their other superstar, like a Paul George. And Paul George tried to laugh it off. And then in that clip, as you saw, he addressed it, said he didn't like it. Why am I playing this clip? Why am I showing y'all this? Well, as you know, he opted out of his player option, which was $49 million, I believe. That's a lot of money. Clippers got his bird rights. He could have easily signed back with them, ran it back, and made the playoffs, and still got more money than any other team could have offered him, which made me think of that clip that I just played right now, because maybe in his mind, he's looking at it like, as much as I got love for Kawhi, or I respect him, maybe we just ran this course and his body can't keep up with what we need to get a championship. Of course, Paul George didn't say that. It's just my opinion as I'm watching from a distance. Now that he's a free agent, the only team that has the cap space to give him the kind of money that he would want, on top of also winning and making the playoffs, trying to compete for a championship, would be the Philadelphia 76ers. New York Knicks would have been on that list, but they signed back OG. Had they known that Paul George was going to opt out, I wonder if they would have tried to get back OG right away, or would they have rolled the dice and tried to persuade Paul George to come. They would have had more cap space to do it again, but they signed back OG, so now that's out of the question. Philadelphia 76ers, however, they obviously didn't sign back Tobias Harris right away, so they would let him walk and offer a contract to Paul George. The only thing I'll say is, I think Paul George is somebody who you would have to initiate within the offense. I don't think he's at his best if you just have him in the corner being a spot-up guy, like a 3-and-D player. I think he's someone you need the ball in his hands sometimes. He needs to be moving, just interacting throughout the offense. Especially since if you look at that Clippers team, he's playing with a James Harden who is not the Houston Rockets version of what he was doing himself when he was on that team. He's more of a pass-first kind of point guard now, and that allows Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to dominate the ball and kind of go back and forth and do their thing. Even when Paul George was on OKC and he was playing with Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony actually turned into the guy who was the spot-up shooter, where he was just kind of in the corner or waiting for the ball at the three-point line, and then it was Paul George and Russell Westbrook taking turns really going off. And with the Philadelphia 76ers, Tyrese Maxey is more of a scoring-minded kind of guard. Joel Embiid is obviously going to have his touches, and he's going to need it. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works out, assuming that he goes to the team and if that actually happens. Moving along, I know I did say that Philadelphia was the only team that had enough cap space that Paul George would want, and also a winning team that made the playoffs, having both that could attract them. But there is another sleeper team out there that no one is mentioning, and I did mention them in my other video when I was talking about overall free agents. Who am I talking about? That is the Memphis Grizzlies. Now look, this is all dependent on if they end up signing back Luke Kennard. From what I'm seeing, it looks like they may get him back. But let's assume that this doesn't happen, or if I'm them, I would really entertain the option of trying to get Paul George on the team. They would probably have to do another salary dump just to give a little bit more money to a Paul George. If they were able to do that, though, Paul George would be joining a team that not too long ago were winning 50-plus games, and the only reason why that didn't happen for this year was because John Morant was dealing with the whole suspension thing, off-court issues, and then he got injured. He comes back fully healthy, ready to go, no issues, no problems off the court. What you have now is a perfect partner in crime for somebody like a John Morant. No shade to Desmond Bane based on what I see from his game. He would be better suited as a third scoring option on a championship team, in my opinion. Put Paul George as the quote-unquote Robin, let John Morant do his thing, and they're a defensive team. Paul George would fit in right perfectly with that sort of mentality. Look, it's just a sleeper team. I think it would be something worth going after. Last point I want to add, a lot of this will also come down to where Klay Thompson ends up going. Based off this report from Shams saying the Lakers, Clippers, and Mavericks are all expected to be strong suitors for Klay. If this is true, this tells me that Klay is not really looking at the money aspect of this. He just wants to win games. And where he goes will definitely play an influence and determine where Paul George may go or what he might do. If I was Paul George's agent, I would probably tell him this is the better approach to take. You may want your money, but dog, you can win a championship, man. You go to one of these teams, somebody like you. But at this point in their careers, Paul George is the better player. I understand overall what he may want. Klay Thompson is more in a position where he has something to prove. He wants to show people that he still got it, whereas Paul George is still playing at an elite star kind of level. That's all I got for y'all, man. Let me know what you think. Do you see him signing back to the Clippers? Is he going to the Philadelphia 76ers? What are your thoughts on him going to a team like a Memphis Grizzlies or some other squad that you may think he could go to? Salute for listening once again, and peace.
Nobody on the planet knows what it's like to play without a starter and Paul George. I'll leave it at that.
Don't do that.
Nobody knows.
Don't do that.
This is what he does.
Don't do that.
Nobody knows.
You know what? Much more of this